Welcome back to another episode of the Me and Money podcast. Elliott, I'm excited to talk about this one today, and I know it's been one you've wanted to talk about for some time.
Yes, and I've written about it, so I've actually clarified my thoughts a little bit. So we'll see if they can actually come through in today's episode.
Yeah, and your blog post might actually be going out just before this episode airs, so you guys should go check it out and see if his analogy holds up. I'm not a big fan of it, but we'll let you be the judge of that. So, what do you want to talk
Fair
about
enough.
today, Elliott?
I look forward to the criticism. So my thesis in all this is there is a wide swath of the population that is not giving enough money to their kids, grandkids, family, however they want to spend it. I think they're just not giving enough, and there's going to be a lot of people who are dying with a lot of money where that money could have been used sooner and more efficiently, I guess, if you will, or more effectively. I don't think we always have to optimize money, but I think a lot of people are going to wake up 10 or 20 years from now and think, I didn't do enough with my money. That's my thesis here.
Okay. Well, let's dive in. So, it sounds like you have some experience with this. So, why don't we start with like how this becomes a problem? Like how do we get to this point where in your analogy, right? These people have freezers full of pizza or literally just piles of cash. Like how do we end up there?
I think it's a fear mentality. I think it's one of those things where people never feel completely comfortable with what they have because life is so uncertain, right? If you're in retirement, you have multiple decades and every article is about long-term care costs or the cost of living rising or any of those things. We're not great at looking multiple decades in the future and seeing the range of outcomes of how much money could I have under different scenarios. And even if we do see that and we see the top end of the result, we see the median, where do our eyes go? It goes to the bottom one. It goes to the worst case scenario. And then on top of that, we add in additional layers to make that even worse, right? That worst one already incorporates our worst fears that we could possibly think about, and even probably some things we can't think about. But yet we somehow even discount that further. At least that's been my experience, I think, for a lot of people out there. And I'm not faulting people for this. I want to be upfront about that. I am also very conservative in all the assumptions I do for my wife and I in our own planning, to the point where it's probably not as helpful of planning, right? If I'm being honest with myself. Um, and it small fears, I guess, or small things that you do, they compound over a long period of time. So like good habits or poor habits that compound over decades, the same thing happens with money. That one small adjustment can mean a ton more money at that time. And we don't really recognize that when we're 30 years prior, right? We haven't fast forward, but having worked with people, I've seen those people fast forward to 80 or 90 when they're passing away, and people don't really recognize what that means in terms of wealth at that point. So I'll pause there for a second to see thoughts, questions, disagreements. I'm open to it all.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of it. Like I think it's natural, right? Like I mean that's the human problem, right? Like
Yeah.
we always overestimate the bad things that are going to happen and we can sometimes overestimate the good things that are going to happen. But if you were to put those two things side by side, like 10 times out of 10, we're probably going to try to protect the downside. Like
Yeah.
that's the problem of being a mortal human being, right?
Survival instinct.
Yeah. So, but it is like, I think that's part of the problem. Like, I think it is like the fear mentality or what I would call like scarcity
Yeah.
mentality. Um, but I also think there is just a lack of understanding of like how this stuff, and by stuff I mean money and wealth, and particularly compounding wealth, actually work. And I think it's really hard to understand like, oh, I am going to likely have that much money. And I think that's part of just like compounding interest, and we've talked about it on the show. Like, it is one of those weird things where the same thing is happening your whole life, but it happens at a far greater magnitude at the end of your life, right? And
Yeah.
that's where, if you put $1,000 in a Roth IRA today and you're 20 years old, if that thing doubles in 7 years at a 10%, let's call it, interest rate, you've only earned $1,000 in 10 years. But if you fast forward to the end of that, and we're at the end of the compounding cycle where you've been doing that every year for, you know, your whole working career, and now you have $250,000 or more in that Roth IRA, like the next 7 years, it's going to double to 500,000, and then again to 1 million, and then again to 2 million. So it's just like,
keep going.
Yeah, but I think that's really hard because you haven't seen it happen yet. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to bank on that. So I'm not opposing you. I agree with you, but I think it's really a combination of not understanding like how some of these financial principles work, and the fact that we are naturally scared that we're going to run out of money, right?
Yeah, for sure. I want to go to my analogy though, because I think it helps to not have it be money. So my analogy here is, I think there's a lot of people who, if you order a pizza, oftentimes we're inclined to share it with our friends and family, right? That's an open thing. But when it comes to money, that's not the case. So if I'm ordering a pizza and I'm not inviting friends and family over, I can either try to finish the whole pizza, probably not going to feel very good, right? You can only have so much pizza. I know there's people who would disagree with me, but I think you get to a point, and then what do? You freeze it maybe, and then you order another pizza. Then what happens? Repeat the process. Before you know it, you have a freezer full of pizza, and keep compounding this. We'll use that language. You have a freezer or freezers full of pizza, and then you die because you haven't shared that with the people that you love. And now your kids are going to get this freezer or freezers full of pizza, but they already also have a freezer full of pizza at that point because they're older. Whereas in the past, they did not have this freezer full of pizza. What would it feel like to give them that pizza sooner in life when it's more meaningful, right? And the whole, like, how do we give money because we can see that future of, I'm going to have freezers full of pizza, and it's not as meaningful to my kids who are now maybe themselves retired by the time that they get it. So I like to go back to the analogy of pizza because I think pizza is a perfect sharing food. I think it's like, I don't know if it's one of the most shared food, but it feels like it's one of the most shared foods out there, of like, oh yeah, I will definitely share a slice of pizza. Like, nobody's like, oh, hey Matt, here's a slice of pizza, I'm going to now charge you $5 for it or whatever it is, right? I'm just going to invite you over and I'm going to share that pizza with you. I think we need to think about our money in that way in some regard.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important, right? And I don't know that people necessarily have like a hoarding mentality for the sake of having a hoarding mentality. Like the thing I always talk about with my clients is like, look, I'm not saying we don't need to make you more money or that you don't need to save money. But the truth is, if you're not happy with what you have today, more of what you have today is not going to make you happier 10 years from now. Like, that is right. Like you said, more pizza in your freezer.
More pizza in the freezer. It's not gonna
stop you from wanting to put pizza in the freezer 10 years from now, right? Like, if that's what you do, that's what you do. And I think a lot of people like put themselves like on the hook to enjoy life more when they have more money or when they have quote unquote enough, right? But if you feel like you don't have enough today, you're just not going to feel like you have enough 10 years from now. And I think that's a really hard thing, like, because you don't want to be reckless, right? And this is fascinating to have, like, in the context of conversations with people at church. Like, you don't want to be reckless and not save for the future, but you also don't want to be like so conservative that you don't do the things that you feel you should be doing in order to save more for the future, right? And that's where I always talk about like stewardship. Like, it's very interesting, like how society has put context on what is the right thing to do or what is the best use of your money. And I always start with the question, like, when did it become the norm that you have to pay for your child's entire education? Like, maybe that's the best use. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Like, maybe your kid would appreciate half of their college paid for and half the other half of it, like, for a down payment on a house, right? Like, I don't know. Like, but I think it ties into your point, right? Like, is stewardship having more pizza in the freezer, or is it doing things that mean less pizza in the freezer, but also more sharing of the pizza now?
Yeah. I mean, I would argue sharing of the pizza now.
Yeah.
And
and I think it is like a stage of life thing, right? Like
100%.
yeah. And I think that's something that's hard too. And I think we've both seen this. And it's kind of a joke that I have. Like, I have two kinds of clients. I have clients who spend more than they make, and I have those who don't, right? And it's really that black and white. But just because someone isn't spending more than they make doesn't necessarily mean they're using it better than some of the other clients. But obviously, running yourself into a hole of debt isn't good either. But I would make the argument that saving too much, and I think this is where you're going, is almost as bad, just in a different way, as spending too much.
Yeah.
Or am I going too far with your analogy?
I mean, I would certainly want more rather than less, but both have their problems. And I think that's what we're getting at is if you don't effectively use your money, what's it doing? Like, why did you save that much? Why did you work that much? And we've talked about this. What were those missed opportunities that you exchanged your time for this dollar? What are you actually going to do with that dollar now? If you do nothing, well, why'd you exchange your time for it?
Yeah.
Same thing with pizza, right? If you have this freezer full of pizza, why is it just sitting there? Right? We want some for a rainy day. And I'm not saying blow it all, spend it all, don't have any reserves. I'm just saying I think there's a larger portion of the population that has more pizza than they'll really ever need. They may not feel that way, but I think objectively, if we were to run their plan, we could say, yeah, there probably is too much. And again, if you have things that you want to spend this on and enjoy it, 100% go do that before you go help your kid, like whatever you want. It's your money, you earned it, enjoy it. But what I often see is, hey, I'm already doing all the things that I want to do. There's nothing extra I want to add to that. And then the pizza just sits there.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why are we doing that? Those are the people that I'm talking to today. And granted, it's probably a very small portion of the population, but just by nature of the people that I tend to work with, it's a larger portion of them.
Yeah. And I'm actually I think if I add this one point to your analogy, I will agree with it more. Like, pizza in the freezer will get freezer burnt at some point in time, and frozen burnt pizza isn't any good. Like, nobody's going to eat it. Like,
they might, Matt. We had some in our pizza. Just a quick tangential thing here. My wife and I do freeze pizza a fair amount, and we brought it out. And I did fresh pizza one time that was recently frozen. She goes, "This is a lot better than what was going on before." It's like, well, yeah, the last one was probably like a year old.
Well, it sounds like you need to take your own advice then, Elliott.
Definitely.
But
just had to tell.
But my point is, I think this goes back to what you're saying. Like, right, if you have all this pizza and then you pass it on to your kids, like, the odds of it being like freezer burnt or non-consequential, or dare I say non-enjoyable, like, it's much higher. And I would agree with you, where I think there's a lot of, we always say save early, right? Because it's way more impactful. But I think you could also make the argument that giving early or providing help to organizations, the new organization who needs it, when you can do it, is probably more impactful than waiting until that organization is well established and now you feel comfortable giving the money away for whatever
you
reason.
Wrote this article for me, Matt, because that was the other part of that thing is let's move that giving earlier where it does actually make a difference, right? A down payment on a house or education or grandkids education, starting a business, whatever it is, right? That $40,000, $50,000, $10,000, whatever it is, it's probably far more meaningful when they're in their 30s or 40s or younger than $500,000 when they're 60.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. But I think what's interesting is, like, they're also very hard. It's hard to identify these people. And this is where I kind of go back to, like, spending too much and saving too much are, like, almost equally bad. Like, I know from a number standpoint, they're not, but you're going to call the person who saves too much frugal. And therefore you may just assume or think that they don't have a lot of money, when in reality, they probably are the people who have the most money.
Yeah.
And then you see the opposite of that, which are the people who are overspending. And you're like, well, how the heck do they afford that? Right. And you're probably right. But being in the middle is like, that's a rarity. And
Yeah.
I think it's very obvious to people, like the overspenders. But I also think a lot of the people who have a lot of money are not, it's not readily apparent because
No.
they're not showing that they have the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm curious like how that factors into all of this, because like I just hear people say like, oh well, you know, mom and dad never made much money, and I just can't believe that they have this much money. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know how it factors in either, to be honest with you. I think it's one of those things where it's open and honest communication is important in a family. Like if you're going to start giving money, explain that you've done a financial plan, that you do have enough money, that you feel very confident of it. That way your kids are more receptive to it. Because I have heard stories of like kids don't want to take the money because they are worried about mom and dad. And I think that's I don't want to say a failure of communication, but like money's not talked about in our society, in which case everybody's sort of just hush hush. So if a check appears and you're giving your kid, I don't know, $10,000, kid's like, well, should I take this? Should I put in an account for that? Like, how should this be treated? Whereas if you're like, hey, here's my financial plan, I'm in good shape and I'm willing to share that with my kid because we have a trusting relationship, maybe they are more open and on board with the plan of gifting money throughout life. So I think it comes back to multi-generational planning at that point of like, how do we optimize this for our family and have an honest conversation about it, as opposed to we're hush hush, we die with $1 million and now our kids get it and they're like, where the heck did this money come from? Why weren't we enjoying like our childhood, right? And those sort of conversations come up. So I don't know if I have a good answer, but I just rambled for a bit. So hopefully that's helpful.
Well, I just think it's interesting, right? Because like it's very hard to identify those people. Like if I were, you know, I know my family's financial situation, so like I know what's going on. Like but if I were in a family where like someone in my family was like a quiet millionaire, like how do I identify that? Like that's where I think it gets really hard, right?
I don't think you do. Like growing up in the Northwest, it was always weird to go to other places because wealth was flaunted. Whereas in the Northwest, I mean, the guy driving the Subaru down the street could easily be a multimillionaire, but he has ratty clothes on.
Yeah. And then you go to Dallas and they have a thing there called the $30,000 millionaire. Have you heard of this?
No.
It's the person who makes $30,000 but drives the Porsche or whatever. So, but that's kind of what I'm getting at with I'm picturing this like curve where I really view my job like with my clients to help them stay like in the middle of the curve, right? Like obviously we don't want you to be an overspender, but we also don't want you to be an oversaver. Like how do I encourage you to go do those things, right? And a lot of times it's just, well, what do you want to do, right? Like you're on the right path. Like you're gonna end up with $25 million when you're 90. Like, what do you want to do? Like, go do it. And then they're like, no, I can't do it. But then you have to help them through that. So
it takes some time, but it's really cool when they do finally do those things that they want to do.
Yeah. So what practical tips can we give to listeners other than like, this is a shameless plug for the work that we do, right? Because I think we do help make sense of the numbers, and I think this is largely because we see it in dozens of families and we can see how things have worked out historically. Not that historical results do not indicate future performance, right? But I don't know, what practical tips do you have from? Where do we start?
Where do you start? I mean, it's simple, but I think you have to have a financial plan, right? Run a scenario that says, okay, if I do all these things, and granted, they're all assumptions, they're all going to be wrong to a certain extent. We just don't know which, right? We're counting for multiple decades worth of stuff, but where does that leave me? What's that range, right? If it's $25 million, like you mentioned, do you want to die with $25 million? If so, well, okay, then your plan's on the right track. If not, what are we doing in between there to reduce that amount, to give, to spend, to enjoy? Like, fill in the blanks there at that point. But I think it starts with that plan of what is my enough number today to have a good outcome later for all those things, whether it's long-term care, insert your fear of whatever happens in the world, but don't put in 8 of them, because 8 of them is not realistic probably. And then just go out and live your life and do the things that you enjoy. That's where I'd say you start. What about for you?
Kind of stole mine, but I'm going to say, like, ask yourself what's missing. And when I say that, obviously someone listening is be like, well, if I just won the lottery, right? Like, maybe, but even if we go down that extreme, like, what would you do then, right? Like, if you didn't have to worry about paying off your credit card every month, like, what would you go do, and what is not in your current credit card bill? Like, start there, identify the things that you really want to be doing, and then ruthlessly cut the things that are not in alignment with that. Like, I just think a lot of us are misguided on where we're spending our money. And I don't think that's not saying you're spending it on bad or horrible things, like, but I still think we're spending on things that don't matter as much to us as we think they do. They may be something that we want to portray about ourselves or show about ourselves, but they might not actually be in alignment with what you want. And a common one I pick on is cars. Like, I drive a $1,500 2010 Toyota Yaris that I bought 5 years ago. Like, I don't care what people think about the car I drive. Like, a car for me is A to B and nothing more. Like, could I have a nicer car? Sure. Do I want a nicer car? I really don't care, right? So having a car payment is far more unsatisfying to me than driving a nicer car.
Whereas there might be other areas that you do splurge on.
Totally. So trips, things around the house, finishing my basement, right? Those kind of things. So I think that's a really good place to start, though, like what's missing, and let that push you in the direction of where you want to go, and just work that into your budget.
Okay. The thing that I would add to that, maybe as a compliment, is if you're doing something new, a tip that I heard is just call it an experiment. So if you're thinking like, hey, I'm going to spend on this thing or cut back on this thing, say I'm going to do it once, right? Maybe you've never flown first class and you're like, you know what? I'd like to know what first class feels like. It doesn't mean that you have to project flying first class for every trip between now and when you die. It could be, I'm going to buy first class next time, see if I like it. If I like it, maybe I'll do it again. If I don't, I won't do it again. So I think that can be a freeing thing. Or if you're giving money to your kids, okay, I'm going to give them, I'm just 10 grand and see how they handle it and how I feel. Okay, that felt good. Maybe I'll do more next time. Or no, my kid didn't handle that well. I maybe I need to put some parameters on this. Maybe I'm not going to give that much. Right. So just think of all these things as different experiments that you get to try, and it doesn't have to be from now until for forever.
Yeah. I think, like, on that note of experiment, like, set the bar lower. And what I mean by that is I always give, like, hobbies as an example. And I thought this might be where you were going with your experiment, but like, okay, say you want to take up golfing, right? Like,
Sure.
You don't need to do all the research on what the best golf clubs are for a scratch golfer when you're just getting started. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Don't set the bar so insanely high for yourself to need to go try something different. I think this is true with giving. I think this is true with those who maybe need to start saving. Like, you don't need to be able to max out a Roth IRA to start saving. Like, just dip your toe in the water, right? You don't need to go from zero giving to 10% of your income giving if that's what you want to do overnight. Yeah. Like, just start giving something and see how it feels, like Elliott said. But don't wait until you can do it the right way or the full way to get started, right?
Yeah, getting started is better than not doing it at all.
Yeah, something is better than nothing.
Yes, and I'd throw the challenge out there to be try to go a step further than feels comfortable as part of that. I like, if you think, hey, I'm going to start here, maybe do a tiny bit more. I like to do that for folks because I think we're naturally inclined to start smaller, which nothing wrong with that. Again, better to get started, but maybe make it a little uncomfortable. Maybe put more on the line with that choice or that decision.
Yeah. And then I think the last thing is like, it's kind of all relative. Like what I conflate as scary might not mean what Elliott thinks is scary. So don't listen to people outside of yourself. Like, I mean, you can listen and take counsel and wisdom from...
Ignore everything we've said on this episode. No, I'm joking.
But like, if, I think it goes back more to my car point. Like, look, if you're like me and you don't care about the car you drive, like, don't let someone else's BMW in their driveway, like, make you feel like you need a BMW. Like,
or if you own the BMW and you love the BMW, keep loving the BMW.
Yeah. Like, that's great. Like, it doesn't, what I care about shouldn't impact what you care about. 100%. Is kind of what I'm saying. Like,
and the car is perfect because I would hate a $1,500 car that's super old because I don't like dealing with car repairs.
Well, that's the thing about Toyotas, Elliott. You don't need them. So, I mean, there's a reason why Toyota Corollas are the most popular car for millionaires, right? So, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, it's just like play your own game. Like, I know you and I have had a lot of conversations, like, just in all transparency, about business, right? Like, it is sometimes hard to see what we should be doing and feel like we should be doing that. But it's like, I don't want what's at the end of that tunnel, so I'm just not going to pay attention to it. Right?
Yeah. Play your own game and also know what game you're playing.
And why you're playing it.
Yep.
Yeah. Love it. Well, I think this is great. To end. Yeah. So thanks for everyone for listening. We'd love to hear, like, what are some of those things that might be missing? You can reach out to us at the forum in the show notes, ask questions, recommend an episode, and we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.